Bible Q&A. So, the struggle continues. Obviously, I'm here to answer any and all questions that come at me, but over the last several days, over the last week, I'd say, the amount of questions that I've been getting has been dwindling and dwindling and dwindling to the point where, well, we're lucky we even got one tonight. So, I want to ask you a question, everyone, and I mean this, everyone, if you're listening, I want you to answer this question. How often do you want Bible Q&A to be on? That's not a threat. That's me simply saying, have we run out of things to talk about? Because it's entirely possible. And if it has, I don't want to take up your time and you don't want to take up mine with this awkwardness and having to cough up a question or feel guilty or something like that, because if that's the case, we can move Bible Q&A to a little less. Maybe it can be 3 nights a week or maybe 1 night a week. I don't know, So it's just something to think about. Feel free to email me about it at clint@remedylive.com and let me know. All right? Let me know what you think. If you're watching this on YouTube or on our site or something like that, feel free to email me regardless. I'd love to get in touch with you and just see what you thought of whatever video clip you've been watching. So, that said, I'm going to move on with our one question of the night. And, it's, where is it here? What does the Bible say about never being afraid when something bad happens? What makes this question difficult is that it doesn't really give me a whole lot to go with. It's a very general question. It's a very vague question. My phone just went off. Tim Johnson, Remedy Engineer, everybody. Anyway, it's a very general and vague question, and it's just wide open. It's hard to give a good answer because there's not anything, there's no real starting point with that. So I've got to create a starting point, and then we've got to jump in. So I guess I'll create the starting point as what is the purpose and place of fear to begin with? The fear of a bad situation. Well, I want to put this out there that fear is part of being human, okay? Now, you might say that it's part of being, in the fallen world and, there won't be any fear once everything is restored. Okay. That's fine. And I think I'm down with that idea, but at the same time, I just want to put it out there that fear is something that we're always going to experience. So, what do we do about it? Well, the first thing I want you to understand is that you're always going to have fear. Fear is going to be there. It's ever present. For some people, it's constant. And they have anxiety disorders and panic attacks. Some people don't have fear, and that's just as bad of a thing, okay? I knew a guy who wasn't afraid of anything. You know how many bones he had broken doing stupid stuff? You know how many times he had, barfed? Because, hey man, I dare you to eat this nasty thing. Oh, I'll eat it. Fear can be a good thing sometimes, all right? Because fear grounds you into the situation. Now, sometimes fear gets out of control and it's overwhelming. It causes us to run from things. But at the same time, fear is healthy. So don't be too afraid of fear. Don't act like it's completely negative. Sometimes it's a good thing, okay? Because if you're about to do something legitimately crazy, if you're about to do something legitimately risky, but you have a good reason to do it, then yeah, you should have some fear, okay? You should. You're walking into a dangerous situation to further the gospel, for example. Yeah, you're going to be afraid. And it's a good thing to be afraid, okay? Because when Jesus was giving advice to his disciples before he sent them out, I believe this was in Matthew, he told them to be as shrewd as serpents and as innocent as doves. Kind of this idea of, All right? You're going to have fear. There's going to be a lot of negativity, and you need to know that. You need to recognize that. But you know what? You also still have to be innocent. You still have to be sincere, you know? So Jesus is saying, recognize fear. Don't let it manipulate you. Jesus is saying, you're going to walk into towns and you're going to be chased out, and people are going to disagree with you, and they're going to shout down at you and say that you're wrong. People are going to threaten you. People are going to kill you. It even says in the passage that, you know, on my account, you'll be brought before the public courts. You'll be flogged in the public square in front of everybody. You'll have to answer to the Roman authorities, to the Jewish religious teachers. And Jesus says to them, recognize that that's going to be a fearful situation. Own it, though. Recognize it and say, you know what? I'm not going to let this fearful situation control me. Instead, I'm going to be innocent as a dove. I'm not going to let this negativity, this fear, control the situation. Instead, I'm going to keep working to fulfill the mission. And the mission was, as Jesus has sent them out, to preach that the kingdom of heaven was near and that Jesus was the Messiah. That's what they went out doing. They went out saying, hey, there is this new teacher. He's teaching a new law. He's teaching a new thing. You need to be aware. You need to come listen. This is a really big deal, guys. And it was a really big deal. In fact, it ended up being so controversial that, well, we all know how that story went. Obviously, Jesus was nailed to a cross for it, but then he was vindicated because God raised him from the dead. Nothing says, hey, humanity, you screwed up by God saying, okay, you executed this guy, so he was innocent. So I'm just going to raise him from the dead. It's cool. Anyway, all of that said, don't let fear, control you. Acknowledge that it has its place. Human beings are emotional, and we experience a wide range of emotions over the course of our entire lives. You may have experienced different emotions just listening to this YouTube clip. Sometimes just a 3-minute song can evoke all sorts of emotions, or a television show. And you need to recognize that there is nothing wrong with that. Okay, there is such a thing as being over emotional, but there is such a thing as being out of touch. And you don't want to be out of touch. I actually think that that's worse than anything. If you're out of touch with your emotions, I guess there's no real reason for me to say it's bad to be out of touch with your emotions. I just think that when you're out of touch with your emotions, it takes away from your ability to understand where people are and where people come from, and it makes it harder to relate, and it makes it harder to empathize with the kinds of people that Jesus calls us to reach out to. So, yeah, that's about it. The answer was general. The question was general. The answer was pretty wide open, maybe a little vague, but the question was as well. What you'll find is that often questions have answers that match them, and that's really the way that question and answer type things work. So, if anybody wants more specific details, ask some specific follow-up questions in the chat room, and we'll go from there. Still, though, it's time for some music. I've talked enough. Francesca Battistelli with Angel by Your Side is on now, right here on